right, and welcome to our 15th episode of Not an Island Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Todd.
I'm Amanda.
And this is the podcast in a little corner of the world where autism, family, and faith meet. Today's episode is going to be really fun. We're going to be doing story time, talking about Ezra.
All about Ezra.
Yeah.
I really wanted to do an episode talking about all of Ezra's different obsessions. I just feel like a lot of parents with children on the spectrum can relate to this.
For sure.
And just getting to share, some of his fun, quirky things that he loves and stories about him and his obsessions. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what this episode is about.
Yeah.
So, what do we want to do this chronologically, starting at a young age, or
we could start at some of his younger ones.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the first ones that came to my mind earlier was eggs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but eggs, that's not the first one. Going way back, he had an obsession before eggs with, oh good Lord. What is that? The caterpillar? Very hungry caterpillar.
That was definitely not before then.
It wasn't before then?
No. No, eggs was one of the first ones I can remember. I don't know if it started with Easter eggs. Yeah. I don't know how it started, but we weren't just obsessed with Easter eggs. We were obsessed with all eggs of all forms, of all fashions. And we had collections of different eggs.
Yeah.
Literally, we bought him eggs in a cart, ones that looked real. And what made me think of this was way back when I think he probably was maybe 3 years old. And right before church one morning, we were all the way ready to go. And he got into the refrigerator and crashed, 18 farm fresh eggs.
Really nice eggs.
Yes. The organic, really good ones.
Yeah.
And he had them everywhere. They were in his hair. They were on his clothes. They were on every surface of the house.
And he was so happy.
Yes. And very soon after that, we found out about the world of locks for everything, including a refrigerator lock, which we still have to this day.
And he's 7 now.
He managed for that to happen one other time. It was a therapist was at the house or was coming, and everything was ready. Everything was clean. Everything's ready for his therapy. And I went in to use the restroom, and for some reason, the fridge didn't get locked. And I come out, and the whole kitchen is he was
covered.
Putting them in a little pot that he had brought in, he was going to cook with them. But yeah, he loved eggs, which was so strange. I honestly thought about having an egg-themed birthday party for him at one point because it was that much.
Yeah, it's intense. Eggs was one.
Not long after that was the produce.
Oh yeah, and pressure cookers.
Yes,
along the same time frame.
Yep.
He loved, for some odd reason, pressure cookers. And I remember we were in Walmart walking around and he saw a Ninja pressure cooker air fryer combo thing, right? This boy lost his mind because we were not buying that thing.
Yeah, we need a bigger collection of air fryers and Instapots.
Because 2 isn't enough.
Yeah.
We need a third one. So this kid he loved pressure cookers. So we managed to find one of all places at the same Walmart in stock. It's this little pressure cooker that's battery powered, and you pour water in one little section of it, and you can push a button, and it'll steam out the top like a little what we call it, a little. You
put water and it just makes a little cloud of steam that comes out of it.
It's not. It doesn't heat up or anything. It just is. Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun little thing.
The things the lengths that we go to make these obsessions a reality for him, because he really, when he gets into something, he's not and I know you guys with kids on the spectrum can relate to this. He's not just a little into something. He's so into it, and I know a lot of.
Sorry, go ahead.
A lot of other kids, their obsessions never change. They may get one and that's there forever. But for Ezra, he goes through phases of different ones. They last a long time.
One that has seemed to stick is ambulances and
right.
stuff like that,
The rescue team.
The rescue vehicles and first responder stuff.
That's probably the longest going obsession.
It's been going for a few years now. But Produce was a pretty good one.
And Produce led into the Very Hungry Caterpillar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It did. Because the Very Hungry Caterpillar, each day it eats something different and more of it. And so.
And when he gets an obsession for the Very Hungry Caterpillar, for instance, we bought him the book. We got him a caterpillar.
Had a birthday party.
We ended up having a whole Very Hungry Caterpillar birthday party. We watched the videos for the Hungry Caterpillar. Every video YouTube has ever made about the Very Hungry Caterpillar, every song they made up, every reading of the book. Like, we've seen it all probably 3 million times. Like, I kid you not.
Yeah, for sure.
When he's into it, he wants to look at one thing. He's just super hyper focused. I think that's a good word. Yeah. The hyper fixation, the hyper focus.
Well, I think the like correct terminology that the community of autism uses is what is it called? Special interests.
Yes.
Special interests. So obsessions, we call them obsessions. Special interests.
Yes.
So yeah, that's his world, his special interests. We have a whole fridge full of special interest drawings right now I'm looking at.
Yes. So when there's a special interest, what we have learned to do is Very Hungry Caterpillar, for instance, that was a book. So that was a big deal because Ezra was not interested in books. We tried to read books to him when he was younger. He would get frustrated. He'd rip the page, turn the page. Like, he just was like, I don't want to do that, And it was like, we know how big of a deal it is to read to your children when they're young. And he just wanted nothing to do with books on his own terms. And most of the time it wasn't reading them, Yeah,
he was not having it.
No. And so that was the first book he was ever interested in. And that was such a big deal because that segued into him being interested in more books. Yeah. And, we try to find whatever in there is like productive and use it. You can use those things to his advantage. I think the first word I've ever seen him write other than his name was fire. Fire.
Yeah, for sure. That was a big deal. Speaking of special interests, but yeah, we'll get to that one.
Oh, we don't have to go in order. We can just talk about them.
So he got into ambulances and fire trucks. There's
police
all
cars.
Kinds of shows, TV shows for kids about first responders. One of them, Firebuds by Disney. Oh, man, like this kid loves Firebuds.
And before Firebuds was the Lego show, the Hometown Heroes.
Hometown Heroes. And we had to buy the Lego Duplo $80 discontinued ambulance.
We have a small fortune of Lego Duplo because that show led him into an obsession with Lego Duplo.
Yeah, if you want to come rob our house, just make sure you get all the Lego Duplo stuff first because you're going to leave with a lot of money.
A lot of money, yeah. And Lego Duplo, like, he's still into that now, but it's not as heavy. But he wanted every single vehicle and every single character to recreate every scene in that show. Like, the second he'd get a new one, he was on to the next one. He's like, okay, now we got to recreate this scene. And he would recreate the scenes and sing the songs from the scenes. And it was
intense. To the point where he had to have Lego Duplo characters that looked like people in his real world.
Yes.
His pediatrician.
Yes.
He found a Lego Duplo character that looks identical to his pediatrician. And his pediatrician loved it. And then his other pediatrician found another one that looks identical to her. Yep. Literally has the stethoscope and everything. Looks identical to her, except for different hair color. And that one is her. And so they're in the ambulance together going to save the day. Like special interests, that's on the top of the list for sure, close to it.
For sure. And for the longest time, I don't know what he would say now, but if you would ask him, what do you want to do when you grow up? Which, I think it's hard for him to like pinpoint anything. He wanted to be a doctor. He said, Ezra's going to be a paramedic, and he really...
Dr. Ez with a P.
Dr. Ez.
Dr. Ez.
Paramedic Ez.
Yeah.
It's been real. So you were you getting into where that led into?
That led into... a huge obsession that we hope is temporary. It's fire alarms,
Yes.
fire pull stations, which our generous friends gave us one, like a full-blown pull station. We have drawings all over the walls of.
If you could see this place right now.
Yeah, there's paper hung up everywhere of fire alarms.
Yes.
We used to have Lego fire alarms that he made by himself. I mean,
we have and smoke detectors.
Smoke detectors.
Yes.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many YouTube videos similar to the Caterpillar. We've made someone a lot of money.
A lot. He loves fire drills because fire drills started at school.
Yeah.
And
which he's scared of them.
He doesn't like the noise, but at the same time, it's like the thrill of his life. And he watches video after video of fire alarms.
Alarms, specifically at hotels at the beach, because we just had a fire alarm at 4:30 in the morning at our hotel that we stayed at on the beach.
Our last day at the beach. 4:30 in the morning. And I promise you, I told Todd, I said, I feel like he just made this happen with how strong his obsession is. It was like his dream come true.
Yeah.
It was not ours. Okay. But literally he got to see the fire truck fly up and everything. And the alarm was going off. His latest vocal stem that is just constant is about, it's attention.
There's a
fire emergency has been reported in the building. Yeah. And he says it over
and then
over
he makes up
again.
the second half. It's like something save the day.
He doesn't know what all it said, so he's got his own version. Yeah. It's so funny. But you guys, when I say it's strong, it's like so strong. Like
once he gets into that mode, you're not breaking him out. No, you're just not.
And you have to find ways to use what he's into to get him to do like educational things or learning things. His teachers, I know they know that. Like,
I mean, think of the amount of ambulances his teacher and teacher's aides have had to draw for him so he could color those ambulances. I mean, it's a whole thing.
His obsession with the rescue team, ambulance, fire truck, police car led into art for Ezra.
Yes. Yeah. Which led into him having ridiculously good hand-eye coordination and motor skill function for his age and for his disability. So
I mean, for a child with a severe fine motor delay, literally
and gross motor delay.
And gross, but years of fine motor therapy to just be able to put his own clothes on, to just be able to use an eating utensil. I really struggled, to have hope for him to write because he was just so overwhelmed by it. He couldn't hold it properly. It wouldn't come out the way he wanted it to. It frustrated him to no end.
Break stuff.
But because that obsession was so strong, he's like, I'm going to figure this thing out. And it is the most amazing thing. We literally this year for his birthday, we asked everyone just to get art supplies because all of our money was going to art supplies. But he'll just sit for hours and he's been perfecting his craft. He draws these vehicles, he paints them.
He draws block letters and makes them into characters.
Yes, like all these things have come from that, and any obsession he has now he has to draw it.
This sounds silly, but I've legitimately been thinking about making a merch line that would support maybe children with therapy needs and stuff. Putting his art on T-shirts because this stuff is actually really cool. It's neat looking art. So if you'd be interested in that, let us know. Put a comment below in this video, or if you're listening, send us an email at notanislandpodcast@gmail.com. We will straight do it.
I would love to see that. I'd love to see some of his artwork come to life.
Me too. I think that'd be really cool. But
one of his most recent obsessions is doorbells. And that started at school as well. As many of you know, they have doorbells set up maybe to go to different centers. They have doorbells set up for when someone comes in the room that alerts them, someone's coming in the room. And they're like electronic doorbells that sing different songs. And Ezra's like love language, and also just like how all of his languages come is musical. It's song. And so, of course, that became
his
world. Obsession.
So, doorbells. specifically doorbells that play musical tones. Specifically, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony.
He fell in love with Beethoven's Fifth Symphony.
Yes. To the degree that now he learned it on piano.
Yeah.
A 7-year-old with fine and gross motor skill delays has learned Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, basic, but
by ear
learned Beethoven's Fifth Symphony based off an obsession that he has. So I want to encourage you, if your child has an obsession, bank on it.
Yeah.
Use it.
I don't know if capitalize is the right word, but it's like...
No, use it.
There's a lot of things that could come out of those obsessions. Sometimes they're just used as like, hey, you really want this? Okay, you got to do this first. You know what I mean? Do this, then get your reward of playing with this or whatever it is. Bargaining with it. But for Ezra, it's been a segue into really some genius things, some things that we weren't expecting. And I know they use it at school. When he first started school this school year, every piece of work I got home had an ambulance drawn on it. Like he may not have done the work, but he drew the ambulance. And then, his teachers began to notice, okay, this is what he really loves. So let's use that to our advantage. And Ezra started the school year not being able to write, not being able to read.
Yeah.
Could not even write his own name. I get work home and he's writing his spelling words. He writes things out on paper now. When he draws something, he tries to write, what's happening in the picture. Just the educational growth that happened. And I really believe like these obsessions, fixations were a driving force behind him beginning to learn and have...
Well, and it was because there were specific books that he wanted to read, books that he wanted to go through and memorize. And
we took him to the little Scholastic book fair and let him pick out books. And that was a huge thing.
Here Comes the Fire Truck. It's a nursery rhyme. They made a book about it. This kid, I've covered this book in tape, covered it because if that book disappears or breaks, it's over.
What's the other book? The Two Tough Trucks.
That one's Semi-Trucks. He loves that book, which is weird because he doesn't really have a very special obsession for semi-trucks.
Well, I will say probably long before eggs was vehicles.
Yeah, that's true.
Vehicles and dinosaurs were some of the very, very first obsessions.
But they lead into educational things. That's been very awesome to see for Ezra.
That just opened up like a well of different things in my mind. But vehicles, dinosaurs, many of you guys, your children are the same, but Ezra had an obsession really early on with letters, numbers, shapes. He knew all of those things from a very early age. Even before he could like fully communicate the words, he would, approximate the word for things. But he was so obsessed in his mind. I don't know if that's the right word, just so fixated in his mind on those things that it caused him to learn a lot really early.
Yeah. It did.
And I'm sure many of your kids do the lineups. He would line up all the letters in perfect alphabetical order and the numbers and the shapes and
how can you use that? Okay, patterns. You're teaching a child mathematical patterns by, okay, what did you do? Oh, look, I see you, like the other day, you have 2 lions, 2 tigers, 2, or maybe 1, 2, and 3. Maybe, you can work with that. Once you said capitalize on that as a parent, because your child is brilliant.
Yes.
Your child is brilliant. They just don't communicate the way that society does.
Animals were an obsession as well. And he would watch videos and learn all the different, he knows more animals than probably than I do.
And dinosaurs.
He learned every different dinosaur. And it's like, these are things that he learned early on because he was very obsessed, but they've never left him. Like he still knows all of them. We watched he got into sea creatures. We watched sea creature videos for like forever. And we learned every single different, underwater thing that there was.
Recently, it's been frogs.
Yeah, frogs. I've watched so many frog documentaries.
We live out in the country, so there's a lot of frogs in our yard.
And he loves to catch them.
This kid has to catch frogs daily. He has to. And if there's not a frog outside, you better have a good reason why. You know,
Yeah.
I tell him the frog has to go sleep because it has to go to school tomorrow. And he's, oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. But
it's so wild because we had such a fear of animals for a period of time. We had a couple situations with dogs that scared him. And then he just became, all of a sudden, this child who was not scared of anything, who loved every animal, wanted to touch, snakes and things he shouldn't touch, all of a sudden was scared of everything.
Irrational fears.
And slowly we've been gaining back like trust with animals. So the catching the frog and actually touching it's a huge thing.
Huge thing, yeah.
Him riding a horse at the ranch is a huge thing. And that's also has been a huge obsession.
Yes. Horses.
Whatever horse is his current horse, he wants everything. Like he wants his ice cream the same color as his horse. He wants
cookies and cream, ice cream. It's not cookies and cream. It's Rascal ice cream because that's the name of his horse,
yes.
Rascal. Or if it's chocolate ice cream, his other horse, Joey.
Yes.
It's Joey ice cream. He doesn't want chocolate. He wants Joey. So, I mean, it's just their language is different.
Yes.
But if you learn their language, you can capitalize on those special interests, on those obsessions, especially at a young age. We're talking at a young age,
Right.
Things change. But for us, where we're at now, that's Ezra's world. That's his obsession.
Yes. And I know we touched on doorbells, but if I could count the amount of doorbells that are in this house, there's probably
at least 7.
No, there's definitely more than that.
No exaggeration.
There's probably, I know we've bought more than that because we've had to replace them over and over again when they break.
When we say doorbells, we're talking about those plug-in,
yes, electronic
radio frequency little, that you like glue the doorbell button to the wall or whatever. Like it's not a full-blown wired-in system. We're talking just plug-in doorbells. But he is in love with them.
Yes. We take like 4+ everywhere we go. He's got a bag full of them or them all in his hands, and they go everywhere we go.
Church bells. That's another one. A small one. It's growing.
It's recent.
We think. Clocks that chime. He loves sounds. Although he's afraid of certain chimes.
Or the sudden noise just kind of.
Yeah, but he still
gives
loves
him anxiety.
It.
Yeah.
Those are his special interests. What else? Anything more recent?
I mean,
earplugs. This dude.
It's crazy how anything can literally become an obsession.
Yeah.
Literally anything can become it for him. You just never know what it's going to be.
Well, I think the earplugs is because he likes the isolation feeling of like
it's canceling out some sound,
baffled sound. But he has a problem with his eardrum, and when he swims or gets anywhere water can be at, we have to put those silicone earplugs in. Well, we started doing that, and now you have to be careful because he is sneaky. He'll just be like, you'll just walk up to him one day and like, dude, do you have earplugs in right now? And he'll just have like,
he find them. He wants them in all the time. When he really likes something, he wants it 24/7. It's like there's no brake pedal. It's all gas.
Yeah.
But it's wild because what other 7-year-old like carries doorbells around and people don't understand. They're like, what is all that? And he wants to talk to them about Beethoven's Fifth and
and they're just looking at him like, yeah, cool dude. He's like, it's Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and they're just like, yeah. Okay, but they don't get it. But one thing people don't get, why would you let your kid carry a doorbell around? Well, maybe it's because that doorbell represents how far he's come.
Right.
And that doorbell represents growth. That doorbell represents things that he has overcome to get to where he's at. And if it's a doorbell getting on your nerves, that's going to get him to be a master pianist.
Right.
Sorry, but I care about his feelings more than I care about yours.
Trust me, Todd. It's easier for Todd to say because he's at work and I'm at home, but the doorbells drive me.
Oh yeah, they drive us nuts.
You can't even have a coherent thought with the doorbells. But we did an episode recently on stimming, and I do believe a lot of his obsessive things or his fixations, they're like stimming things for it. Like he stems off of the doorbell, the noise on the doorbell. The earplugs is definitely like a self-stimulation thing because he'll do like his hands over his ears to listen to certain noises. But yeah, they bring him comfort. And from as early as I can remember, Ezra would has just clung on to things and always needed something in his hands.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
He would go to sleep. It could be an avocado when we had the
toy avocado.
No, a real one.
A
when
real
we had
avocado.
when we had the produce obsession, he would get all my produce out of my refrigerator as well. Like whatever the thing was at the moment, it was with him all the time. And he'd go to sleep with it. Everywhere he went, it's just something that brought comfort. And he's still very much like that. The things have changed, but
it's so bad that if we buy something that we know is likely to be an obsession, we better buy 2 or 3.
Right.
Because if we lose one or it breaks, that's a really, really bad day. Actually, a really bad few days if you have to order it on Amazon.
Yes.
Like it's not good. So we usually order things in 2s and 3s nowadays.
Within the ambulance obsession, there's been ambulances from a plethora of different shows.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to buy backups. He has a Tayo ambulance. He has,
a Batman Joker miniature ambulance Lego thing.
He has an ambulance from the Firebuds. He has and whatever that ambulance is at the moment. Remember Dr. Feelbad from the Cars films. Just whatever ambulance it is at that moment. Like
monster truck ambulance.
He goes to sleep every night with several books, some of his favorite drawings, like just whatever it is.
5 different types of frogs. Dolls.
Mm-hmm. That's why the speckled frog.
Yeah, because it has to be 5 little speckled frogs. Mm-hmm. You know that song. So, sea turtles.
Oh, sea turtles is a big one. We did their whole room underwater themed because one of Ezra's biggest calm down things for at night, he loves to watch
like
under
a calming video that
ocean.
Has like ocean scenes, like sea turtles swimming and
so it's whatever. Like calming music with sea turtles and fish, and that's been a thing for years now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in the country, so I actually had to rip one of those videos and a portion of it in case we lose power,
which has happened recently. Thank
so
God
that
we had
it. We can watch it on the laptop if to so help him go to sleep. And so it's wild. It's wild, the obsessions and special interests that children have, but it's also beautiful to see how
helpful they can be for them
and how they lead them into a whole different direction that you just never saw. Children becoming virtuosos on piano, or children becoming obsessed with blueprints to buildings. Mm-hmm. So guess what they become when they get older? Architects, And
we're not saying that is the case for every child. We're not saying that's the case for Ezra, but we want to foster all that creativity. Mm-hmm. We want to foster all the educational things that we possibly can and just see where it'll go.
Yeah.
And, it can be, like you're saying, it can be a really big positive in their life.
And do we push and force and aim for you're going to be a pianist? Because no, but it's an opportunity and it's a direction that he can go if he chooses. Mm-hmm. So we want to encourage you as a parent, do that.
Yeah.
Help your children and find ways to incorporate it into their world to help them learn, maybe help them grow. Also, what are some of your children's special interests?
Comment them below. I want to hear. If any of the things that were Ezra's obsessions are the same, I'd love to hear that as well. I think that's so funny that, a lot of times they glom on to similar things,
I want to take it a step further. If you relate to this episode, share it.
Yes.
Share this episode. Yes. Just give it 1 share. That's all we're asking. Give 1 share on any social media. Share it. Because I guarantee you there will be other people who
as we're wrapping up, there's probably 50 more things coming to my mind that were obsessions for him. They're honestly endless. They're endless. We could probably talk for 7 days on it if we really sat down and thought about all of them. But those are the big ones. I think we hit the big ones.
Yeah. So today's episode, we talked about obsessions, also known as special interests professionally. Guys, thank you so much for sticking around with us and hearing story time for Ezra.
Yes, all about Ez.
So until next time, we're Not an Island Podcast. I'm Todd.
I'm Amanda.
And we'll see you guys around.
Yep,
Peace.
see ya. Bye.